The numbers on my laptop screen blurred, then sharpened into something that made my chest collapse inward. An email notification had popped up on the shared company server, sent to the wrong folder, to the account I rarely checked anymore since Ryan handled our finances. The subject line read, "Tonight, usual place." My husband's response sat beneath it. "Can't wait. Wear the blue dress I designed for you." The blue dress. The custom piece I'd sewn for our 3-year anniversary, delicate floral stitching that reminded me of my mother's work. The dress I thought I'd misplaced months ago. The sender was my half-sister, Taylor Walsh. My fingers went cold first. A strange, creeping numbness that spread up my wrists as I scrolled. Message after message appeared. Intimate exchanges dating back 18 months. Pet names. Hotel reservations. And then the ones that turned my blood to ice water. Ryan had written. "Once we control the finances, we take her clients. Your mom's right, she's too trusting." Taylor's reply. "She still thinks family means something. By the time she figures it out, BW Designs will own her market share, and we'll have the house." I pressed my palm flat against the desk, watching my hand shake as if it belonged to someone else. The fluorescent lights of my Fargo design studio hummed overhead, indifferent to the fact that my entire world had just fractured into before and after. My name is Meredith. I'm 32 and I built a sustainable fashion brand from nothing. This is the story of how I destroyed the people who tried to destroy me. The studio felt foreign now, though I'd spent 7 years transforming it from a cramped back room into a thriving workshop. My mother, Caroline Walsh, had dreamed of a place like this before cancer took her when I was 16. Her sketches still hung on the walls, bold lines, flowing silhouettes. I'd named my brand Caroline's Stitch in her honor, building something she never got to see, and I'd handed the keys to my enemies. I forced myself to keep scrolling, each message a fresh wound. Ryan Palmer, the accountant I'd married 4 years ago, the man I'd trusted to manage our books. He'd been siphoning funds into something called BW Designs for over a year, small amounts spread across dozens of fake invoices labeled consulting fees. My sister had opened the account. My stepmother, Diane Collins, had coached them both. The worst part? I'd let Taylor live in my mother's house, the home Caroline had left me, the only thing of hers I had left. I'd invited my father, Frank, and his new family to stay there after the wedding, hoping proximity might finally make us feel like real relatives. They'd been plotting against me the entire time. I thought about the signs I'd missed. Taylor lingering in Ryan's office, their laughter stopping whenever I walked in. Diane's frequent visits to the studio, her eyes cataloging everything while pretending to admire my work. Ryan's late nights, his vague excuses about getting our finances in order. I trusted them because I wanted family so badly it made me stupid. The clock on my laptop read 11:47 p.m. Everyone had gone home hours ago. I was alone with the truth, and the truth was that my husband was sleeping with my sister while they both stole from me. I didn't cry. Something harder settled into my chest instead, a resolve that felt like armor plates clicking into place. If they wanted a fight, I'd give them a war. Over the next 3 days, I transformed from victim into investigator. I spent the next 3 days gathering evidence while pretending nothing had changed. Every morning, I kissed Ryan goodbye and watched him drive to the studio I'd built. Every evening, I smiled at family dinners while Diane asked pointed questions about our expansion plans. Sophie Martinez, my accountant, was the first person I told. She'd flagged the strange payments weeks ago, but I'd brushed off her concerns, trusting Ryan's explanations about vendor consolidation. I told her, "I need you to trace every dollar that went to BW Designs, and I need it documented in a way that holds up in court." Her eyes widened, but she nodded. Sophie had been with me since the beginning, when Caroline's Stitch was just a dream and a sewing machine. Marcus, our IT specialist, pulled the email records and server logs. The evidence was damning. Not just the affair, but a detailed blueprint for stealing my company. They planned to poach my suppliers, replicate my designs, and time their launch to coincide with my spring collection. Taylor had been using her position as marketing coordinator to build their brand aesthetic using my work, Marcus said, sliding a folder across my desk. "There's more. Your stepmom's been emailing Taylor almost daily. She's coordinating everything." I read Diane's messages. her calculating words stripped of the sweetness she performed at family gatherings. Push her harder. She'll crack eventually. Once we have the house, we take everything else. She won't fight back. She's weak, just like her mother. My father's name appeared nowhere in the emails, but his silence at every family dinner, his refusal to meet my eyes whenever Diane criticized me, that was its own kind of betrayal. I called Gloria Martinez, my mother's best friend and a respected designer who'd mentored me since my early 20s. Her voice was steady when I explained everything. She said, "Your mom would be proud of how you're handling this. Now make them regret underestimating you." She connected me with Rebecca Howard, an attorney known for dismantling fraud cases with surgical precision. I'd kept a personal emergency fund separate from the business accounts Ryan managed. My mother had taught me that much, Rebecca's first words after reviewing the evidence. They're facing serious criminal charges. 3 weeks passed as I played the hardest role of my life. The hardest part was maintaining the act. 3 weeks of smiling at Ryan across the breakfast table while knowing he'd been in Taylor's bed the night before. 3 weeks of answering Diane's questions about our revenue while knowing she was feeding information to the people trying to destroy me. But I needed time. Rebecca was building a case that would expose them completely, and rushing would only give them room to hide their tracks. The breaking point came on a Thursday. Taylor posted a photo on Instagram, a casual shot of her at some boutique opening, wearing a dress with familiar floral stitching along the neckline. My design. My mother's signature technique. She'd stolen one of my prototypes and was flaunting it publicly. The caption read, "Excited to announce something big coming soon. #new beginnings. #better designs." I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. Then I picked up my phone and called Rebecca. I said, "I'm ready. How fast can we move?" That evening, I finally dropped the mask. Ryan came home that night to find boxes packed in the living room. His keys clattered against the counter as he stopped cold. He asked, "What is this?" I didn't look up from the termination papers I was reviewing. "I know about Taylor. I know about BW Designs. I know about every dollar you stole from me." His face went through 3 expressions in 2 seconds. Shock, calculation, then something that tried to look like hurt. "Mur, whatever you think you saw, don't." I finally met his eyes. "I have 18 months of emails. I have the bank records. I have screenshots of every payment you funneled to my sister's account while pretending to be my partner." He stood frozen, his carefully constructed confidence crumbling. For 4 years, I'd believed in his charm, his easy smile, his promises about building something together. Now I saw him clearly, a man who'd married me to get close enough to take everything. He started. "I can explain." "You can explain to the police. Rebecca Howard filed the fraud complaint this morning. You have until tomorrow to collect your personal belongings from the studio. Security will escort you." His expression hardened. "You'll regret this. I know things about your finances that—" "Everything you know came from access I gave you, access that ended the moment I realized what you are." I handed him the divorce papers. "Sign these or fight me. I'm ready either way." He grabbed the papers, hands trembling with rage. "Taylor was right about you. Cold, controlling. That's why she... What? Felt justified in sleeping with my husband while stealing my company? I don't actually care about her reasoning, Ryan. I care about protecting what's mine." He left without signing, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. I sat in the silence afterward, feeling oddly calm. The hardest part was over. Now came the reckoning. The next morning, their counterattack began. Taylor's social media assault started the next morning. Posts appeared accusing me of abandoning family, of hoarding my mother's house, of refusing to support her child, the baby she'd apparently conceived with my husband. I learned about the pregnancy from an Instagram caption. Another betrayal layered on top of the rest. The comments flooded in from strangers who'd never met any of us, calling me selfish, greedy, a terrible sister. Diane amplified everything, retweeting Taylor's lies with captions about family loyalty. My father shared her posts in silent endorsement. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from horrified friends, concerned colleagues, random acquaintances asking if the accusations were true. I ignored all of it, focusing on Rebecca's strategy. She explained during our morning call. They're panicking. This public campaign is designed to pressure you into settling quietly. They know the evidence is damning. I asked. What do I do? Nothing. Let them overreach. Every lie they tell publicly strengthens our defamation case. It was harder than it sounded. Watching my reputation shredded online while staying silent felt like swallowing glass. But I trusted Rebecca's process. My team at Caroline Stitch became my anchor. Sophie worked around the clock to document every fraudulent transaction. Marcus secured our servers against any attempts to delete evidence. The seamstresses who'd been with me for years showed up with coffee and fierce loyalty, ignoring the social media circus. Gloria stopped by every evening, bringing food I forgot to eat and stories about my mother's stubborn determination. She said, Caroline had this same fire in her eyes when she defended her designs against knockoff artists. You're her daughter, through and through. 6 weeks after Ryan walked out, the court hearing arrived. The court hearing came faster than I expected. Rebecca had assembled an airtight case. Bank records, email chains, sworn statements from employees who'd witnessed suspicious behavior. Her colleague Jonathan Burke, a silver-haired litigator with 40 years of experience, joined as co-counsel. I walked into the Fargo courthouse on a crisp October morning, wearing a dress I'd designed myself. The floral stitching along the hem was my mother's technique, passed down through her sketches. My armor, made of fabric. They were already seated when I entered. Ryan, in an expensive suit he'd bought with my money, Taylor clutching her notebook like a shield, Diane arranging her face into wounded dignity, my father staring at the floor. A family portrait of betrayal. Jonathan began. Your Honor, the evidence before you documents a systematic scheme to defraud Meredith Walsh of her business, her assets, and her family home. He walked the court through everything. The fake invoices, the siphoned funds, the emails outlining their plan to launch BW Designs using stolen designs and poached clients. Taylor's face grew paler with each document displayed. Their attorney tried to counter, arguing that family disagreements didn't constitute fraud, that I'd voluntarily shared my home and my company. But Jonathan was relentless. He said, Ms. Walsh didn't share her company. She trusted her husband to manage its finances. That trust was weaponized against her. Rebecca played the audio file we'd saved for last, a voicemail Diane had accidentally left on Taylor's phone, obtained legally after Taylor's phone records were subpoenaed as part of the fraud investigation. Her voice filled the courtroom. Push her until she breaks. Once we have the house, we take everything else. She won't fight back. She's weak, just like her mother. The judge's expression hardened. My father finally looked up, his face gray. I took the stand last. My voice was steady as I described what I'd discovered, what I'd built, what they'd tried to steal. I didn't dramatize or beg for sympathy. I just told the truth. I said, This house was my mother's dream, before it was mine. She left it to me because she knew I would protect it. These people. I looked at each of them in turn. Are not my family. Family doesn't do this. The ruling came down that afternoon. Full ownership of Caroline Walsh's house confirmed as mine. Full ownership of Caroline Stitch confirmed as mine. Ryan, Taylor, and Diane faced criminal fraud charges. Their assets were frozen pending investigation. I watched them file out of the courtroom, their expensive attorneys already preparing damage control. Taylor stopped at the door, turning to face me one last time. She said, You'll be alone forever. You know that, right? This is who you are. Cold. I smiled. I'd rather be alone than surrounded by people like you. In the months that followed, I watched their carefully constructed lives collapse. The aftermath unfolded slowly. Ryan's fraud charges led to a plea deal that kept him out of prison, but destroyed his career and reputation. Taylor received 2 years probation and was barred from working in the fashion industry as part of her sentence. Diane pleaded no contest to conspiracy charges, avoiding prison time but losing her social standing and most of her assets to legal fees. Taylor's BW Designs collapsed before it ever launched. Suppliers refused to work with her once the court documents became public. Our divorce was finalized 8 weeks after the verdict. Ryan signed the papers rather than face additional litigation costs, and I never spoke to him again. My father called once, 3 months after the verdict. I let it go to voicemail. His message was halting, apologetic in vague ways that never quite admitted fault. He never called again. I sold my mother's house. The decision surprised even me. I'd fought so hard to keep it. But every room held memories of their occupation, their scheming, their lies whispered in hallways my mother had walked. I couldn't heal there. The money went into expanding Caroline's Stitch. We opened a second location in Minneapolis, hired more designers, launched an apprenticeship program for young women who reminded me of myself at 20. I named it the Caroline Walsh Fund. The hardest choice came later, when Taylor's daughter was born. The baby arrived 3 weeks early while her mother was still navigating probation requirements. DNA testing confirmed what everyone already suspected. The baby was Ryan's daughter. As the baby's only relative not facing criminal charges or ongoing legal restrictions, Child Services contacted me about placement options. Taylor, overwhelmed by her circumstances, voluntarily signed over temporary custody during her probation period. Ryan waived all parental rights as part of his plea agreement, wanting nothing to do with the child or any reminder of the scandal. I said yes, not for Taylor, never for Taylor, but for a child who hadn't asked to be born into chaos. She deserves a chance I'd been given, passed down from my mother, the knowledge that someone cared enough to stay. I named her room Hope Corner. Gloria cried when she saw it. Now, looking back, I can finally see the full picture. Some nights I still scroll back through those emails that started everything. Not to torture myself, just to remember how far I've come. The woman who read those words at 11:47 p.m., alone in her studio, her hands going numb with shock. She didn't know yet how strong she could be. I learned that family is what you build, not what you're born into. I learned that trust should be earned slowly and protected fiercely. I learned that the people who try to break you often do it because they recognize strength they want to steal. If you're watching this, wondering whether to fight for what's yours, here's what I wish someone had told me. Document everything. Trust your instincts and never apologize for protecting yourself. The people who call you cold for having boundaries are usually the ones planning to cross them. And to anyone out there who's ever been betrayed by the people who were supposed to love you, I see you. You're not alone. Hit that like button if this story resonated, share your experience in the comments if you're comfortable, and subscribe for more conversations about standing your ground. Because here's the truth they don't want you to know. You're stronger than their lies, and you always have been.